So the next definition under clearance is frame installation butting wall. And that's the amount of clearance that you should have from the back side of the jamb to the face of the end of the wall, or whatever you're attaching the frame to. So let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at this definition. Okay, here is the next one that we're working on. Frame installation, butting wall. The distance between a frame and the wall construction where the frame's butts against the wall. The distance between a frame and the wall where the frame butts against the wall. So they're talking about this. This is important. Context. This comes into play when you're dealing with existing openings, and they're always masonry. They're not partition. If it's a partition installation, you're going to wrap the wall. You're not going to butt up to the end of it, and that's inherently what we're talking about. When you're butting to the wall, you're literally butting it to the wall. If you have an existing wall and it's partition, you're certainly going to wrap the wall more like this. Okay. So in the installation where you've got an existing opening, an existing masonry opening, and that's very commonly going to be a brick and or block wall where you're removing a door and frame and you're installing a new door and frame. And that's a situation where you're replacing everything. You can't salvage the frame. You don't want to salvage the frame. It cannot be salvaged because it's compromised or rusted or degraded or simply damaged to the point where it's no longer usable for its intended purpose. Or it's new construction and they've literally put the walls up. It's precast. And what you need to do now, or what someone needs to do, is get doors and frames into these existing openings. Okay, so it's either going to be existing construction where you're removing, or it's new construction. Most of the time it's existing construction, and you're probably going to inherit something that looks not unlike this. This is what you're starting with. You've got a door, and you need to get all of that out. Okay, so you're going to use your 14-inch diamond blade. You're going to saw cut all this out. Hopefully you don't hit any masonry T-anchors in there, which you very likely will, or some method of anchoring. So you're going to get through there somehow. Maybe a masonry abrasive wheel, a 12-inch and a 12-inch cutoff saw would be a better idea than your diamond blade. Cut through all that, and the idea is that you're going to create a clean opening, or be left with a clean opening. Now, this definition is important because the frame, and the term is OD, or outside dimension. The outside dimension of the frame is important. That's in relationship to what the inside dimension of the rough opening is. And the difference between A and B is frame installation butting wall, the dimension between the OD of the frame and the rough opening divided by 2, basically. So what I'm saying is A and B can't be the same dimension. You want to take A and subtract the frame installation butting wall margin or gap or clearance. You want that to be equal on each side. And that's what the frame OD will be. So a very common scenario is that you've got an existing 3070 door and frame that's going to be cut out and replaced. And then someone's going to go in with flathead sleeve anchors and anchor it. Okay? If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Customer calls and says, I need a new door and frame going into an existing opening. Okay, great. My next question is, what is the rough opening? Well, it's a 3070. No, it's not the question. The question is what's the rough opening? Because we need to allow for the frame installation butting wall clearance dimension. And that is generally what I have found to work every time is a 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch dimension means that if you've got a existing opening and it was a 3070, for sure your client's going to come back and say it's 39 3/4 or 39 1/2. For sure every time. They're never going to tell you it's 40 inch. And the only time it'd be okay to use a stock 3.0 wide door and frame with a 2-inch face is if they come back to you and says it's 40 1/4 or maybe 40 3/8. That's fine, because you have to be able to shim the frame. You're literally going to use wooden shims to get the frame shimmed in place. You'll put caulk or backer rod and then caulk. You'll break those shims off so that you can get the frame set so that it's true plumb level and square. But they'll usually come back and say it's 39 3/4, 39 5/8. Well, that's telling you that automatically you need something non-standard sized. What I like to do is, because in a major metropolitan area the existing opening situation is so common, keep your 3.0 doors, which will be 35 3/4, whatever it is. But what you'll want to do for your jams, and it wouldn't really be a big deal, for X, keep them in stock at 1.5 inch, at 1 3/4, at 2 inch. You can even go down to probably 1 1/4. The idea is it allows you to keep the cost down, because these frame face dimensions may not cost much more money to buy. You'll charge more because you have to keep them in stock. The only issue with that is you might be using a header that's a different dimension, and you might have to clip that or cut the header off, because the header is going to be like this. This dimension is going to be 2 inch. Well, if you're coming in with an 1 3/4 frame jam face, you're going to have to clip that part off and get rid of all that. No big deal. You know, I would stock 5 3/4 in these 2 extra sizes, lefts and rights, 7/0, hinges and strikes, be done with it. The issue though is your pipe anchors are going to have to get cut down if that's what you're using. But the idea is, and then also of course you have to be mindful that this reduced face dimension may or may not complicate what you're working on, in the sense that, imagine if this is a 8 3/4 and now that dimension is, if this face dimension is now like here, your hinge, which was sitting here, is now sitting here, so your degree of opening is going to change. That could be an issue as well. So be mindful when you change that face dimension. There could be some complications. It's generally not a big deal that ever comes to light because the client doesn't realize, certainly up front, that changing the face dimension affects other stuff. But you may hear about it on the back end. Oh, hi, oh, by the way, I couldn't get that door open to 180 degree like I thought I was gonna. Okay, well, you didn't. That wasn't in the operational description, but nonetheless, be aware of it because it will affect everything that you're doing. But it's an inexpensive way to be able to allow a client to install retrofit doors and frames into existing masonry openings where those openings were once upon a time 40 by 86. That is no longer the case. And now you need margin. You need butting wall, frame installation, clearance is what it is. Any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next definition, which is overlapping wall. Yeah. I don't know that I'll have much to say about that. You want that as close to 0 as possible, but let's move on. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.